Tuia e runga, tuia e raro, tuia ki te hero tangata, karongo te ao, karongo te pō. Ki Hawaii ki nui, ki Hawaii ki roa, ki Hawaii ki pāmāmo. 3 times. Welcome on behalf of Ngāti Whātua.
I kept saying, when you go over there, can you try and find out why the New Zealand government is pushing the TPPA? Like, what gives? I mean, the signing, the maybe thinking about sending implementing legislation to Parliament, the cabinet thinking about ratifying it, and a lot of people in DC are raising their eyebrows because apparently Ambassador Grosser is not telling everyone back home what clearly our embassy in Washington knows, which there is not a majority of support in favor of the TPPA in the US Congress. And the only place we've gotten challenged, and it's happened 15 times, has been Canada in NAFTA. They challenge a lot, but guess what? If you guys get into the TPPA, you get 1,608 new US corporations, the most litigious in the planet, with newly ISDS-U, in addition to all those Canadians who've been going after us. Because up until now, with all the agreements we have with ISDS, 50 agreements, we've had hardly any challenges. Overnight, we double our liability, 9,500 new corporations. This includes the Japanese and other companies that now you don't have ISDS exposure to. It would be a new threat. But I just want to say, 1,608 US. They love to sue everyone. I'm from there. I am a recovering attorney. I get the rap. This is brand new liability. So when your government says we've never been sued, I say, hold on to your wallet and your tax dollars, because if TPPA happens, it is just a matter of time. Think of 50 years of ISDS, and there were 50 lawsuits total, and now they're more than 50 a year. So now we're in 2017, there's still no TPP in the US approved, which gets back to why New Zealand has been such a cheerleader for the agreement. Because I was here maybe 4 years ago, and I remember, and I've been following the press ever since, and I get New Zealand Herald alerts and everything at home, and of why are you guys doing this thing that has very little upside for you, enormous downside for increasing the prices for Pharmac. So I thought it was really important to dig out of the snow and come here and say, guys, this is far from a done deal. This is likely to be an undone deal. So if you guys in your parliament, for instance, do the implementing legislation and you change your laws, you've now changed your laws to meet all this bullshit in the agreement. It's an agreement that may never get signed, and you'll have screwed yourselves over by passing that law. And for God's sake.
Treason! The national interest analysis I have redubbed the national government's interest analysis. It is devoid of any independent insight. The docs have done some calculations, and of the 24 highest cost meds that are currently funded by Pharmac, 7 of them are biologics, costing $134 million a year. Now, if these are the new generation meds, and they are assessing for every additional year of protection that there is, it will be between $25 and $50 million to fund those 7, and they are the new generation, so we will have not 7, but 14 and 20 and 30 and so on. then the medicine budget's going to blow out. And who is going to pay for that? Is the government going to put more money into Whātua? Is it going to buy fewer drugs that are subsidised? Or is it going to require people to pay more for their medicines? And those who can afford health insurance are the ones who will be able to get those meds.
Because it's not over yet, as you've heard. We can still show the national government that New Zealanders from all walks of life, from all areas of the economy, from all areas of our country, oppose the TPPA. Just because National are going to sign it next week does not mean the fight is over. There is no guarantee that this deal will go ahead, and so I want to say that in government the Greens will work to withdraw New Zealand from the agreement. And these papers have shown that New Zealanders' concerns about the TPPA are entirely legitimate. It is bad for our people, our environment and our economy. It is a bad deal because private companies will get the benefits while ordinary New Zealanders will pay the cost. We support international trade. Trade is good. It is actually pretty clear from all the evidence that the investors will come out on top. It's not about trade, it's about power. It's about locking in new rules that limit governments. The TPPA does talk about te tiriti o Waitangi, but in nowhere near the depth, the commitment, and certainly without anything like the consultation that New Zealanders believe is appropriate.
This time, it's not about a trade agreement. This time, it's about an agenda to enforce on us the undermining of our sovereignty, and I can't accept it. Being built in New Zealand that is good and progressive has come under Labour governments. We haven't always got it exactly right, but what is good in this country has come from what we have done. And one of those, as Metiria says, we need to trade. We need opportunities to be able to sell our goods into the world, and I am proud of the fact that we as a Labour Party have signed agreements that have extended out those opportunities around the world. But the second legacy of the Labour Party that I want to talk about is the heritage that we have had of standing up for New Zealand and for New Zealanders in the world, of not being afraid to take a stance when others have not agreed, and for always putting forward at the forefront our democratic rights, our democratic freedoms, and our ability to make our own laws. And that fundamentally is what is wrong with what has been put in front of us by this government. And there are some truly bogus statistics behind some of that, but there are economic benefits. But you know what? You cannot put a price on our democratic and constitutional freedoms to make. Let's build the tent as wide as possible in what happens from here. Not every New Zealander has read and understood the things that have been written about this agreement. Bring them in. The people who are worried but they're confused. Don't judge them, don't yell at them now. Bring them in and make them part of a wider campaign.
Or just ignored that Kupe was here first and then Māori actually lived here. But when they discovered this country, Māori said, oh my goodness, here's a whole lot of technology that we wouldn't mind having. They said, oh my goodness, we are great entrepreneurs. We think we'd like to participate with these guys. We could use those chisels, we could use those hammers, we could do some great things with this stuff. Had they known then what we know now about our sovereignty being ripped away, I think the first things we would have traded for were the muskets, and then we would have stood on the borders of the country a lot stauncher and a lot harder. Because we know, that's right, because we know a little bit about something of having your sovereign rights ripped away. That's right. So I want to say to you, well welcome to our world. Welcome to our world. Because now you fear having your sovereign rights ripped away from you. You fear that somebody else is going to come and impose their will on top of you. Welcome to our world. United. Because now you understand what that feels like. And we are united in our stance to object to anything that removes our sovereign rights. Now, the Treaty of Waitangi Clause, the government will tell us that the Treaty of Waitangi is protected in as much as their interpretation. Well, I think if we looked back over the last 175 years, you'll be able to see that their interpretation of the treaty and ours has differed. A little bit. In fact, they claim to be upholding their obligations under the treaty to ensure that they will not be breached. But yet, they cannot even admit and take up the recommendations of the Waitangi Tribunal for 175 years. And I'm sorry to say that that includes all previous governments of the day to be the determinants of what is right under the treaty. Then we have always been on the bottom of that ladder, and we continue to be. So we must stand up for rights, and I'm proud to see all of our Kiwis coming here today, because when we protect the sovereign rights of Māori, we actually protect the sovereign rights of all of Aotearoa, including
And I say that because the loudest voice in Parliament, one of the greatest opposition members of Parliament, is the leader of New Zealand First, and that is Winston Peters. And he has been opposing this trade deal vehemently in the House for the last 5 years. Listen to the people of New Zealand, because we all know right now this national government is not listening to New Zealand at all. They are speaking with forked tongues.
Hope can move mountains, they destroy fear. I'm not